I am 71 years old. I wake up earlier than I used to, even though there is nowhere I need to go. The house is quiet in a way that only older houses become. Not empty, just settled. The clock in the kitchen ticks louder than it should. The coffee maker groans like it's tired too. Sometimes I sit at the table and wait for the sun to come up. Not because I'm eager for the day, but because the dark gives me too much time to think. My hands shake a little when I pour the coffee. Not enough to spill, just enough to remind me that time has passed. I used to think 71 was very old. Now it feels less like a number and more like a weight I carry gently. The way you hold something fragile that can't be put down. Most nights, I sit in the living room with one lamp on. I don't turn on the television. Noise feels unnecessary now. I listen to the house breathe. That's when memories come. Not the loud ones. The quiet ones I avoided for years. I was not always this slow. I was not always this reflective. There was a time when I filled every hour with something useful. Work, projects, plans. I told myself that was responsibility. I told myself that was love. I was wrong. I grew up with faith around me, but not inside me. My parents went to church. I learned the words. I knew when to stand and sit. I understood the rhythm of belief without ever letting it touch me. When I was young, God felt like an idea meant for people who had less control over their lives. I believed in effort, in discipline, in making things happen with my own hands. That belief carried me far. I built a career that paid well. I provided a house, health insurance, vacations once a year. I checked every box I thought mattered. My wife believed in God, quietly. She never argued with me about it. She prayed before meals even when I didn't bow my head. She went to church alone more Sundays than I care to remember. I told myself it didn't matter. Love, I thought, was about stability, not shared faith. We raised 2 children. I was present, but not available. I attended school events, but answered emails in my head while clapping. I asked about their days, but listened with half my attention. I told myself I would slow down later. Later is a dangerous word. The regret I carry is not one moment. It's a pattern. It's the slow decision to put faith and family just behind whatever felt urgent at the time. Not far behind. Just enough to say, after this project, after this promotion, after things calm down. Things never calm down on their own. I didn't notice the cost at first. Life kept moving. The kids grew. My wife grew quieter. I mistook her silence for peace. I mistook my success for blessing. When my father died, I felt nothing but inconvenience. The funeral was on a weekday. I had meetings to reschedule. People spoke about heaven and reunion. I nodded politely and thought about deadlines. Looking back, that frightens me more than any grief would have. Time has a way of collecting interest on neglect. My children left home one by one. They were polite, independent. They called their mother more than me. I didn't question it. I told myself that was normal, that fathers were like anchors, important, but not spoken to often. My wife got sick in her early 60s. Not suddenly, quietly. The kind of illness that steals energy before it steals breath. I went to appointments. I sat in waiting rooms. I held her hand. But even then, my mind stayed busy. I prayed for efficiency, not healing. I prayed that things would go smoothly, not deeply. She asked me once, late at night, if I was afraid of dying. I said no. I said I wasn't afraid because I believed in living well now. She nodded. She didn't argue. She turned toward the wall and whispered a prayer I pretended not to hear. When she died, the house became louder in its silence. Grief did not come as a wave. It came as a dull, constant pressure. I missed her routines more than her words, the sound of her moving through the kitchen, the way she folded laundry, the prayers she whispered before sleep. I realized then how much of her faith had been carrying both of us. After the funeral, people stopped checking in. That is not a complaint. It is simply how life works. Everyone returns to their schedules. I returned to mine, but there was less to return to than I expected. That is when the cost became clear. I had built a life efficient enough to survive without depth, and once depth was required, I had nothing prepared. My children visited out of obligation at first, then less often. Conversations stayed polite, shallow. We loved each other, but we did not know each other anymore. I could feel the distance, but I didn't know how to cross it. Pride is strange. It keeps you from reaching even when your hands are empty. Nights became long. That is when faith returned, not as belief, but as absence. I felt the shape of what I had ignored. The questions I had postponed waited patiently for me. One night, I opened a drawer and found my wife's Bible. The pages were worn in places I had never noticed. Notes in the margins, names written beside verses. Mine was there more than once. I didn't read it right away. I just held it. That felt like enough. My return to God was not dramatic. There was no moment of light or voice, just exhaustion. The kind that finally stops arguing. I sat in that same living room, late at night, and said out loud that I didn't know how to do this. I didn't ask for forgiveness in the way people expect. I just admitted that I had been wrong about control. I began to pray poorly. Short sentences, long pauses. Sometimes nothing at all. I read slowly. I stopped trying to understand everything. I let the words sit with me. Faith, I learned, is not something you conquer. It is something you allow. I reached out to my children differently then, not to fix anything, just to listen. I apologized without explaining myself. That was harder than any confession to God. Some wounds remain cautious. Trust takes time I may not fully have. But something softened. I attend church now. I sit in the back. I don't sing loudly. I don't volunteer for anything. I just sit. That is enough. I feel close to my wife there, not because I imagine her beside me, but because I finally understand what mattered to her. Peace did not arrive as happiness. It arrived as acceptance, the kind that doesn't erase regret, but stops it from poisoning what remains. If I have learned anything at 71, it is this: God does not rush. He waited for me longer than I deserved, and when I finally turned around, He was already there. I live more quietly now. I drink my coffee slower. I answer the phone when it rings. I speak less and mean more. At night, when the house settles and the memories come, they no longer accuse me. They remind me that it is still night, but morning has not been taken away. And that is enough peace for me.